Hello, I'm Avery or Hazel or Kylie. You can just pick one. I don't care.
Hello, I am Lily.
And welcome to the From the Closet podcast. Today, for our free film day for November 2023, which, like, holy shit, 2023 is almost over. Um, we are covering Ballerina, also known as Leap in the US, which is actually where we are, but I prefer to go by the original title when it comes to things like this. With A Silent Voice, which we covered previously, I actually just don't know which one's the original, so whatever.
Yeah,
I assume it's A Silent Voice, considering that's the name everyone calls it, it seems, but we'll see.
I mean, does it really
Or we
matter?
won't.
It's in
Who
another
cares?
language anyway,
Yeah.
so they'd be
I,
calling it something different, maybe? I don't
Not
know.
necessarily. A lot of the time in Japanese, like in Japan, an anime will still have its like name in English.
Hmm, weird.
But anyway, the buh, buh, buh. Okay, obviously this podcast will contain spoilers for said movie. If you'd like to avoid them, there will be a link in the description below to the Just Watch page for this movie, which itself will have links to every place you can rent, purchase, or stream this movie with price comparisons for renting and purchasing. For us here in the US, it is currently available for free on a lot of fucking places. It's free on Freevee, it's free on Tubi, it's free on Vudu, it's free on Pluto TV, and probably some other stuff too. So, you got your pick. You get your pick of platform, pretty much. It's not free on YouTube, though.
Yeah, only place that. Pro- well,
You know, we haven't pulled a free movie from Peacock in a while.
hmm, I don't know. Never felt like using it.
I mean, we just haven't used it. I
Yeah,
completely forgot until just now that Peacock even had a free selection. But anyway, also in the description, you'll find a link to our Patreon where you can vote on future episodes of this show, as well as get access to episodes before they release, as well as early access to episodes of our sister show, Off the Shelf, which is about books and is exclusive to YouTube and Patreon. Speaking of future episodes, you can join us later this week for Avengers Endgame, and you can join us next week for Cruella and West Side Story 2021. Um, Also, in the description, you will find a link to Anchor.fm, which is now Spotify for podcasters, which itself will have links to every platform this podcast is on, as well as links to our Instagram and Twitter, where you can be notified when we release a new episode. But with all that being said, please get out of here if you would like to avoid spoilers, because we are going to start discussing the movie now. And, okay, so I gotta say, a lot of the time but here lately, when I've been having to go to my local library in order to watch stuff, just shenanigans. I don't have internet at home for those of you listening, and I haven't for a while because I because reasons. Hopefully that should change sometime soon, and I'll be able to watch stuff without having to go to the library. But that'd be nice. But the the thing of it is, going to the library, I tend to watch whatever we're covering along with doing something else at the same time. This might have been the first instance where I was so engrossed in the thing that we were watching that I literally couldn't work on the other thing that I was doing at the same time. And it legit got to the point where I decided to close all the tabs of the stuff that I was working on because I was just too focused on this movie to actually do the work that I was working on.
except apparently
But
Discord, which DMing me while she was watching.
not much while I was watching, mind you. And to be
I mean,
clear,
I
there
imagine that you
were
probably paused to DM.
yeah, I had to pause a couple of times, and I also noticed myself like not looking over at the DM conversation for several minutes. So, like, there was that. But also, there wasn't much of a conversation happening there. It was just like, hey, I might not be able to finish. Oh, okay, what do we do? Here's some ideas. Oh, wait, never mind. I actually can finish. Hey, I finished.
It was
That was
what a great conversation that we had that day.
Yeah. Also, guys, if
Um,
y'all just heard a loud thud, that was my laptop moving. I'm
Hmm.
recording on the laptop. But anyway, yeah, I really like this movie. If it isn't obvious from what I was saying about like being too engrossed in it to actually do other things. Like I found the okay, first like I found the animation to be great. The music is great, and then like the characters are endearing, and honestly the movie is also just pretty funny.
I do. This has all been Avery's opinion so far. I also like the movie. Um, I think it has a very interesting plot, and it's definitely the story that it's trying to tell is definitely. I say this a lot, but it's very interesting. Engaging. That's a better word.
Yeah. And then like okay, so I know the voice cast is different depending on like it's not even just depending on what language you watch the movie in, I think, because I'm pretty sure the movie released in France and the UK at the same time, and then when it released in the US they had an entirely different voice cast. So are there actually like two different English voice casts, or was the UK release just subs only? I don't know, and it's a little unclear. But with the voice cast here in the U.S., um, you remember the character Odette, who
Um.
basically becomes Felicie's mother in a way.
Oh yeah, that character. Yeah.
Yeah, she's voiced by Carly Rae Jepsen. If you don't know who that is, I'm sure you'll recognize her from the song "Call Me Maybe."
I mean, sure. I barely know that song.
Yeah, I mean, you know that song at the very least. I think it would be
Yeah.
pretty hard to be alive when that song was popular and not have heard it.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah,
Just I
I don't
wanted to
know.
make
That's
that silence clear when you said that name. Just this means nothing to me.
yeah, because Lily lives under a rock. Um,
I don't memorize
but
like people's names that I have never met and will never meet.
you're not capable of recognizing the name of any famous person. Just about like that. That's what I've learned.
I mean, I can
Unless they drum up
recognize some
some
stupid famous people like
it,
Elon
but
Musk.
like yeah, unless they drum up some stupid amount of controversy online, or they're literally the president of the United States, you don't know who they are most of the time.
Yeah, because like I don't have like an emotional connection to celebrities online.
You don't even need to have an emotional connection. It just like vague awareness of who they are. You don't even have that. It's weird.
I don't care about who they are for most of the time.
Well, when you don't have an awareness of who they are, it's kind of it makes conversations about movies kind of difficult sometimes. Um, just because like you don't tend to recognize when someone is in multiple things at once. Um,
I mean, that's like what
and
Hollywood's like, oh, look, this famous person is in this new movie. Buy now. It's like, cool.
that is
Sure.
not what this is at all. That
But I
is
mean, you
not what I was
understand,
talking about.
but you know that happens.
Barely anymore because nobody cares. Because what tended to happen was the illumination effect, where they fucking chug in as many famous names as possible, and then the movie sucks.
Well, that's just pisses illumination.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. Like, Hollywood seems to have learned now that you can't just do that and expect people to show up.
Hollywood's learning? Crazy.
Although, for some reason, it still seems to happen with Dwayne Johnson.
I will never understand that person.
I
Anyway,
mean, I like some Dwayne Johnson movies, but most of them are just mediocre.
um, in fact, this movie is so opposite of Hollywood because it wasn't even made there.
Yeah, it was made in France, which is
So let's
interesting.
talk about France.
Yeah, like, I don't think we've covered any other European movies to my knowledge.
No, I don't think so unless one of the movies that we covered was European movie and we just never brought it up because we just didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the first, I think, and I think it's very fitting, a very good pick. Apparently, this movie won some awards, um, but I don't have the information in front of me to like say what awards they were. But
Yeah.
I I do think it's earned because I have made it clear I really enjoy this movie. This has to be like one of my favorite new discoveries from the podcast. It like right along there. Not it doesn't quite break A Silent Voice. Like A Silent Voice was genuinely so good, but I think this movie might be like number 2 or number 3 for me in terms of like new discoveries.
Sure. I was actually so around like when the movie was finishing, I wanted to look something up. I wanted to look up the dates of when the Eiffel Tower was being built and when the Statue of Liberty was being built. And I hate to say it, but it does actually line up a little bit.
Interesting. Something that I'm tempted to look up now is if the piano playing in the movie was animated correctly. Because
Probably not.
if you know anything about musical instruments and animation, it's very often wrong. So I'm tempted to look that up. But, you know, I was actually kind of nervous going into this movie that I would find it just okay. I tend to
Hmm.
not like historical fiction most of the time. I don't know what it is, but I tend to just find it boring. But this is more just like the time that it's set in really does not seem to matter.
I mean, there's a lot of pointers on like what time this was set in, and a lot of ways that you'll be able to know, but it's
For the
more
most part,
focused
it
on
real
its own plot. It's more self-contained.
yeah, for the most part, it really doesn't matter that this takes place like a couple hundred years in the past. Like it doesn't matter.
It's 18 something. I think
Yeah.
1880s from when I was looking up, but I can't remember. That was like an hour ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
This
know.
isn't school.
Like,
I'm not supposed to memorize these years.
but anyway, like I don't know. For me, like I tend not to enjoy historical fiction that much. Like I didn't really like All Quiet on the Western Front, the 1969 or was it 79? I don't remember. The one that we watched. I didn't really like it that much, and I say that even though like I am gonna eventually put the 2022 version on the wheel at some point, just so we can say we covered both versions. Although technically, I know there is another version from like the 30s, but I really don't want to do that. Nobody even knew that that one existed until a lot of people didn't know that that one existed. So it doesn't matter.
I mean, it's the
But yeah,
30s. Who
like
cares about the 30s?
yeah, it there's just a lot of historical fiction media that I've consumed that I really was just like, I don't care for this. And then I gave up. Most of the time it was books. I'd start reading a book, it'd be historical fiction, I'd get really fucking bored of it, and then I'd just move on to something else. I think one series that kind of broke that was Crispin, but I mean, whatever. This movie though, I really love the dancing. I have no idea how the animators did it. Like, I'm genuinely curious as to whether this was like motion capture or if like they had the animators actually perform the dances themselves so that they would know how to animate it. Like, there's a lot of different ways they could have gone about it, and I'm very curious what they did. Um, a lot of the times in movies like this, it would be something I would look up beforehand. But with this, it's kind of hard to look up anything about this movie because both of the names for this movie are pretty generic.
Yeah. I mean, one is Ballerina, which, I mean, is just a job or activity that you do. And the other one is just jump. It boils down to jump.
Yeah, like they're both pretty generic names. Ballerina, in particular, is like we're getting an American movie named Ballerina next year, I think. And then there are also already other movies named Leap. So, like,
But not with an explanation point.
eh, that really doesn't help much when you're using Google.
I mean,
And you know, the thing that makes this even more confusing is like this movie came out in 2016, but in some platforms it says it came out in 2017. And I think that might just be the American version that came out in 2017, but even still, it's confusing as fuck. I hate it when streaming services like have the wrong year. Because this also happens with But I'm a Cheerleader, I believe, where I'm pretty sure the movie came out in 1999, but on some streaming services it says 2000.
weird. I mean, it could just be, when it released and when it got like a widespread release. Because, I mean, they're not, technically, what we're watching is the American version, which, if your theory is correct, would be the 2017 version, which that would be completely correct. 2016, that would be wrong.
Would it though?
Yes,
I'd argue no.
completely, because it's a different version of the movie. If
I
you're
mean,
watching the 2016 version,
they don't do
which,
that with like dubbed anime though. Like, you see a dub that came out like 2 years after the original movie, but the original movie's release date is still like preserved on streaming services. So I don't get it.
hmm. Also, we've
But
done little talking about the actual movie.
yeah, I kind of keep trying to circle back to it because like I was talking about like the dancing and how really cool it was. Um, it, it it was actually just really fun to watch the dancing in my opinion. Like, I don't know what it is. I have a thing for dance choreography. It's something that I like in The Greatest Showman and Teen Beach Movie, and I can't think of anything else right now besides this movie. um but yeah, like I love seeing good dance choreography in things. So that's one of the things that draws me to this movie. But I also just really like the characters. Felicia and Victor, they're so entertaining. Their interactions are funny. Um, and then there was that one rich girl. She was pretty funny at times. You also hate her at times. Um, Odette can be funny as well. Rudy is funny in a wow, why do you think this works kind of way.
Hey,
But
Avery,
yeah,
guess what character I hated?
Rudy.
He was. Actually, I don't know why I asked because I cannot remember these characters' names very well, other than like the main cast. Rudy was the super model kind of dude, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the dude, bro.
Just what are you doing, man?
Yeah. And honestly, I didn't care much for any of the romance aspects in this movie, but they ultimately weren't that big of a deal in the movie.
Hmm.
Like, even the whole thing with, like, Victor and Felicie, that romance wasn't that much of a thing. Like, they're not even together at the end of the movie. It's just a fun
I
thing.
feel. Yeah, I feel like they didn't want you to care about the romance.
Yeah. They just kind of put it there for reasons. I don't know. They're young. They're in Paris, of all places. So, eh,
Sure,
whatever.
why not? You know, it's definitely about the dancing. Is about that evil mother. It's definitely the girl who didn't really feel like she wanted to do ballerina to begin with. Didn't want to do this dancing because it's just. I love. I really do when the mother was talking about like, no, I will get the role. It's definitely like a parallel to a lot of people's real life situations where the parent is forcing their dreams of what they wanted to be onto their kid. Sometimes without even realizing, though I definitely feel like this one is
Oh yeah, this one
realizing it.
absolutely knows what she's doing. Um, and like it's a bit of an interesting. I thought it was a bit interesting how they were like fighting. How the mother was like trying to literally kill Felicie while on the Statue of Liberty, and like there was also like just her daughter like trying to stop her too.
I will have to say, Statue of Liberty, pretty good fight set.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see another fight on the Statue of Liberty at some point in the future
In France or in America?
in America,
Okay,
because the fight is set in like 2023 or 2024.
I see. In the future.
I think 2023 actually.
Almost sounds like a Marvel property movie.
Well, we'll see if you're right about that.
Because I
But
believe that's the time that Marvel is in right now. Or at least the point of the podcast of watching it.
yeah, I don't know. Like this movie's fun. I also like really enjoy the relationship between Felicie and Odette. Um, it was kind of nice, like how they kind of helped each other grow. Um, even though like Odette is an adult already, like she still has character growth in this movie. I thought that was really nice. I also really liked the dude who was like doing the auditions for the part in the ballet showcase. Even though he was kind of a dick at times, it was also I don't know.
Yeah.
He was an interesting character. Um,
Like,
like
at one time I was thinking, this level of competition, which also somehow seems like a more of a survivor type situation. Probably isn't very good on children, but hey, the ballerina world is a cutthroat world. Who am I to judge?
yeah, Yeah, one scene in particular, like that comes to mind is when like Victor and uh Felici, they go to this like seems like a club, honestly,
Mhm.
because they're not supposed to be in there. It's like somebody even asked if they were ID'd at the door, but like Felici does this amazing dance. She's basically like wowing everyone in the club over. But this like the guy who's running the auditions, he's there. He sees her, and like you have that scene when Victor tosses her a rose and it throws her off and she falls down. And he's like, next time I see you, bring some dignity. But I don't remember what he said after that, but like he followed that up with a compliment.
Yeah, I think it's like you put on like a good performance. No, it was a good performance.
Yeah, something like that. And like
And
that.
it definitely is more like character. I want to say character growth for him, but more like showing off his um 3D character. He was not just
Yeah,
two dimensional.
which is funny because this is animation. But anyway, like I don't know, like there's just another scene too in this movie that I want to bring something up because it did annoy me a little bit.
Hmm.
So there's the scene where Odette is starting to train Felici in like dancing and stuff, and she pours some water on the ground and she's like, jump up and ring this bell and land without splashing the water. And Felici's like, oh, that's impossible. And I'm like, sure, whatever. I can buy this being possible. What I don't see is possible is how that puddle of water stays there without evaporating for the entire rest of the day. No, that thing would have
I mean,
evaporated or dried up by then. Like,
maybe the water was reapplied in a scene that you didn't see.
I mean, then show that. I mean, it pretty much looked like the same puddle, but whatever. I mean, like, in my experience, a puddle that
Magic water.
small, that's gonna evaporate. I also just love the just another subject change. I also love the escape sequences from the orphanage. Like the first, I love the first attempt that failed. I thought that was pretty entertaining. Then you have the second attempt, which succeeds, is pretty entertaining. But then you have Felici going back to the orphanage, and we start seeing a different side to this one character who was literally chasing them the last time, trying to prevent them from escaping. Like we see the different side to him, and then he actually helps her escape the final time. I thought that was really neat. The small bit of character growth for a character who doesn't really fucking matter that much.
Or like talks at all.
Yeah.
Though
They also
Avery,
just
I was pondering your evaporating water thing, and I came with a conclusion. It's because you're using dirty American water. This is France water. 10 times, 100 times better.
sure. We'll go with that explanation. Now, I think the real explanation is that Odette is secretly a waterbender and is preventing the water from evaporating.
Oh, that it makes so much sense. Why didn't I see that before?
Yeah, it's not that they're using French water, it's that Odette is a waterbender and a dancer,
Yeah,
apparently.
wow. Obviously, my theory is way more plausible.
I think both theories are completely implausible.
Hey, game theory, or I guess film theory. Yeah, Matt Pat, I like, hit me up. I got your next theory.
Yeah, I don't much care for him. Um, but sure, go ahead. I think that would be a terrible episode, actually. Just being
Probably
honest.
would.
Yeah. But
Hey,
I don't
this
know.
movie that you never heard of,
Yeah, like I would
Water.
think most people in America have not heard of this movie. Um, and like
That's
even
true.
looking at
It could have been a popular movie in France.
it probably is, I don't know. But like the looking at the description of this movie, I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did.
Hmm.
You could say I took a leap of faith, but
Uh,
don't even try. That was a good joke.
Also be a leap into fate. God, this one show corrupted me.
Whatever. But anyway, I took a leap of faith on this movie, and I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed it. I think movies like this and A Silent Voice and a couple of others that I can't think of right now are why I'm really glad that we started this podcast because I get to see things that I never, I know I never would have watched otherwise because like my brain would just be like, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. And then later comes and
Later
the
never
movie
comes.
disappeared. Later comes and the movie's not on the streaming service for free anymore or on the streaming service at all in some cases. Like Planet Hulk. If we wanted to cover that movie today, we couldn't. It's not available anywhere anymore.
Infinity Train.
I mean, we could
That was
buy
just.
Infinity Train.
I mean, sure, but that was also a lot of money. This is a TV show.
But yeah, like Infinity Train is another example, I guess. Even though I didn't really like season 3, and I had watched seasons 1 and 2 before um before we started Infinity Train on our podcast. So, I don't know. There are some cases where I'm very glad to have watched the thing, and then there's some cases where I'm like, why am I watching this? I don't like this. And those cases would include stuff like Mystery Incorporated.
Wow.
And I can't think of anything else that I watched for the first time on this podcast and absolutely hated.
I can name a few.
Yeah, I know you can. Oh wait, the Angry Birds movie. That's another one.
I was gonna
Oh, and Ghost
say.
Rider 2.
Oh yeah, but I was gonna say Zapped.
Yeah, but I had already seen it. That
Really? Huh.
yeah,
Must have forgot because I erased my mind of any information detailing that movie.
yeah. But yeah, I had seen, like, I had come across this movie last month, when we were looking for a free film to do last month. But then, like, I had suggested it to Lily, and then she realized that Ghost Rider 2 was available for free on YouTube at the time, and we had already covered the first Ghost Rider movie, so it just made sense to go ahead and do 2. It sucked, but I guess here we are.
I mean, we basically signed. Well, not signed, but had a commitment to finish the Ghost Rider movies, and now we don't have to do them in case if you know that character appears again in
Yeah.
something else.
I mean, I'm glad we finished it, and I would have watched the Ghost Rider movies eventually. That's not one of those cases where it's like, oh, I'll do it later. No, those would have definitely gotten watched. But
But
this
hey, you
movie,
watched them and regretted it.
well, I regret it. I regret watching the second one. The first one, I did enjoy the first one. But this is a movie I never would have watched on my own if it wasn't for the podcast, and I'm very, very glad that we did watch it because I really enjoy this. I just spoilers for later. I'm putting this one somewhere in the 9s.
Well, for later, or how about now? I mean, I don't have much more to say.
I mean, are we? Oh, that's a 3. Okay. I thought
That's
I looked a few minutes like I looked a minute or two ago and I thought I saw a 2 at the beginning.
that's why you're going on this, because you're trying to stall.
Well, not really. I wasn't trying to stall. I was just like, oh, how much more do we have to go through? And I thought it said 21, but apparently, I guess it said 31. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. Bottom line, if you've listened to our whole conversations about this movie and you haven't gone to watch it, I would suggest it. I would really, really suggest going to watch this movie. It it's fun and it's quite charming. But yeah, Lily, you want to get into the critic ratings?
I would, yeah. Um, IMDb gives us a 6.7 out of 10. Some Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 75%, and 79% of Google users like the movie. And, ooh. And the audience rating score on Rotten Tomatoes is 67%.
What the hell? Why are all these scores so low?
Damn. It seems like everyone thought it was pretty mid.
Yeah, well, I don't think this is mid. I'm giving this a 9.3.
I thought it was above mid, good, but 8.3.
All right. Well, like we mentioned earlier, you can join us for Avengers Endgame later this week, and you can join us for Cruella and West Side Story, the 2021 version, next week. But until then, I've been Avery. That's been Lily. We will be seeing you.